Welcome to the SEEK24 podcast. My name is John Michael Lucido, and this podcast will feature some of our favorite podcasters recorded live at the Spoke Street Media booth during SEEK24 in St. Louis. We hope these give you a glimpse of the energy and passion from the conference and help you in your faith journey. Enjoy.
Hello and welcome to the All Things Catholic podcast. I'm your host, Edward Sri, and we are here at a special edition in St. Louis for the SEEK 2024 conference. It is amazing here having 20,000 people packing the dome, people from all over, from east, west, north, south, from overseas. But I'm blessed here to have two sisters from the Sisters of Life joining us on the show today. We have Sister Immaculé, as well as Sister Veritas, both residing in Denver, where I live. So welcome to the show, sisters.
Thanks so much, Dr. Sri. A gift to be with you.
Well, we're talking today about the topic of rest, the topic of leisure. We live in a world where there's so much pressure, there's so much noise, there's so much activity, so much busyness. And a lot of people, young people, whether they're the college students that here experience this, I know many moms and dads experience this out in the world as well. There's a lot of pressure, and to find time for just rest, to rest in the Lord's presence is hard to do. What advice do you have for us in this very busy, overactive world in which we live?
Well, I think just the first thing is, leisure and rest. I wouldn't say it's not time off, it's like time in to the deeper realities. So I think the first thing is making it a priority in your life every day to schedule a certain amount of time that this is just for leisure and rest. I'm not going to do anything else. I'm not going to try to measure myself, perform, achieve anything, but just be in a way that actually is life-giving.
Yeah, and I think often in the experience of rest, we want to go and do something. We were just having a conversation earlier about this where we think we need to fill that time with something. It's hard to be silent. It's hard to be still. And really to put your heart in a disposition of receptivity is really where our hearts can finally rest and find leisure. And we can do that even if we're doing things. Our hearts can be at leisure even if we're in the midst of activity. But God invites us to make space as well.
Tell me a little bit more about that. How do you do that when you're busy, whether you're a student, you've got a lot of exams you're getting ready for? How can you find rest in the midst of that? Or you're a parent and you're raising kids and you got to get them from one thing to the next and get dinner ready and a kid breaks down. There's so much going on. How do you find rest in the midst of a lot of pressure and a lot of activity?
Well, I think so much of it is how you approach reality. So do you see reality as something that's a threat to me, something that's coming at me or against me, or do I receive reality as a gift? So let's say, for example, you're with your children or you're in the office or you're at school and you're in the midst of working on something and someone approaches you. Is this person a gift to me? Do I have an openness and a posture of receptivity to see God coming to me in this human person? Or do I see them as something as a threat to my reality? So it's the way that you actually posture your heart and see that which is given to you as something coming as a gift from God or not.
I guess as you were saying that, I was thinking of my wife, actually. I was thinking about how there's many times there's chaos in the house. Something goes wrong. There's, spilled, food all over the floor, or there's some kid crying or something happening. And she'd be the first one to say she doesn't get this right all the time, but she gets it right more than I do. I can get stressed about that moment, but she sees it as just what you're saying. This is an opportunity God is giving me to encounter Him in this messiness right now, in this other person right now, and how do I cultivate that kind of attitude? Because I liked how you described this. That this rest isn't just like time off; it's cultivating an interior attitude. What are some practical ways we could do that?
That's a great question. I think I love what you're saying, Sister Ann, too, because I think sometimes we can measure ourselves or our worth by what we can do, produce, or achieve. And so it's almost like taking a risk. One way to cultivate is take a risk to take that time each day, whether that be 20 minutes, half an hour, to do something that I'm not performing, not achieving, and to experience and to even ask the Lord, how do you see me in this place? Show me who I am here. Because when we can encounter Him in that place of being versus doing, we actually come to this deeper reality of who we are, that He loves me not for what I can do, but for me. And so I think slotting off time in your schedule every day for a little rest, leisure time is so essential and so powerful.
Now, are you describing like 20, 30 minutes of time for prayer? Is that what you mean? Or you mean something else?
I mean something else. I mean just think, like, what makes you feel like a kid again? You know, what gives life to your soul? Maybe that's going for a run. Maybe that's painting. Maybe that's writing a story. Maybe that's reading a book. Something that actually draws you into this life-giving place in your heart where there's freedom, there's peace. I'm not talking about like video games or TV. It's actually something that is profoundly creative in the deepest sense.
I love that, sister. It reminds me when we were postulants, one of our sisters invited us as a part of our formation to go on these wonder walks, is what she called them. So we were given an hour of time where we would go for a walk, and as soon as your heart was moved by something in creation, you were invited to pause and to stop. And you just let your heart and your mind receive the gift of whatever it is. So it was a flower, a tree, a bird chirping, and you allow your heart simply just to receive. And it's actually cultivating this space of the capacity to be with creation, to be with God, and to see that I don't have to produce things, as you're saying, sister. I don't have to achieve something in this walk. I can simply be in a posture of wonder. And it opens my heart then, when I get into the busyness, to actually be able to receive reality, the rest of reality as a gift.
How about for you? What does leisure, this little 20-minute time, look like for you all in the convent?
You know, I like to run. I like to read. I like to just have good conversation with my sisters, enjoy nature, go for a walk. It's so restorative. In the convent, we actually have time every day called recreation time, which if you break it down, it's recreation time, an hour every day to actually do that for leisure. That's how important it is in our like horarium, our religious life horarium. So it's like not optional. It's like essential to actually our being. It's awesome.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Can I ask you this though? Okay, once again, I'm picturing like many of my listeners out there are lay people. They're young college students, or they're young adults, they're young families, and they hear that, go, wow, I want to become a nun so I can get that hour of time. Is it possible for somebody in the lay state, with the pressures of you've got work all day long, and then you've got family life going on, or as a single college student here, you know, you got all that you're going. Is it possible to really build in that time every day? How have you seen it? Because I know you all work with so many of our
Definitely.
students, and you work with a lot of families. You work with a lot of moms. How can you fit that in?
Definitely. You know what? I would actually say leisure and rest is not a luxury, but a necessity. And the reason I say this is we talk to tons of college students, and one thing that's actually a theme in my conversations with college students, totally overwhelmed, totally overburdened. Their prayer is not going so well often. There's a sense of futility in prayer, all of that. So I often ask them, do you leisure? Do you rest? And usually the answer is no. And what happens when we don't have that time, everything else kind of, it starts to become more stressful, more pressure, and it just builds and builds and actually kind of creates like this swirling vortex of pressure. So actually the common denominator in my conversations with college students is that they're not leisuring. And once they start leisuring, it's like actually the world opens up more for them, and they find there's more time than they thought they had because they're giving that space actually to experience God's wonder and goodness.
Yeah, and I would just echo that, sister. I love it. And I think you have to get really creative, I think is what I'm learning. And, you know, we have it protected in our own life, but just as a word of encouragement that, yeah, it does take some creativity, you know? So is it when you're driving to work in the morning, you turn the radio off and you just have a space of silence? Is it when you're drinking the coffee in the morning and you're holding your child in your arms that you step outside to look at a flower for just 5 minutes, 10 minutes?